All right, welcome to the End of a Species podcast. And yeah, we have a lively crowd again here today. We've got, let's do the same thing we did last time and go around the table. Adam, you start, and then we'll go all around. Everybody introduce yourself. I'm Jeff, by the way. So you guys, I'm not that exciting. Go for it.
Jeff, thank you. I am Adam. You can find me at nowhere really on the internet. Well, I guess I got Instagram. Tatooine Hermit, at Tatooine Hermit, I guess.
Now you're going to get mail.
If I get mail, whatever. So I block everything. So yeah, I'm here. Next.
All right, I am Ryan, and I feel like I'm in community college when they're like, go around the room and everyone tell us a little about yourself.
I'm an adult male.
Oh, what do you want, like a corporate icebreaker?
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Tell me who your favorite Ninja Turtle is and why.
Mine is Raphael. My favorite Ninja Turtle is Raphael. He was always my favorite because he was angry and misunderstood, and I was the middle child, and I felt that way.
Nice.
Luna.
Oh, hey, it's Luna. You can find me on Instagram. It's _Reina _day la Luna at the end. I know it's too much for your brains, but
y'all want to plug your podcast?
Yeah, so actually we do have something serious that we do every week. So we are part of a cult activism awareness group where we help people get out of cults, and we provide psychological therapy and just like support for them to integrate back into societies. And that is we're part of the vast apostate army you can find on YouTube and pretty much every social media outlet. Our personal podcast that covers religious topics, political and scientific topics, and how they all tie in together. So very Assassin's Creed-ish. It's called Catalyst of the Mind, and you can find that on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube Live. You have to go to Luna Whispers on YouTube to find that.
Given what we're going to talk about, Luna, would you like to qualify yourself and your background, since we know what this is going to head into?
Yeah, so I am a academic student. I major in psychology, general psychology, with a concentration in forensic psychology, criminology, victimology, and devious thought. And
you're on the dean's list.
Yeah, so I've been on the dean's
horn.
Well, I've been on the dean's list since enrollment. I'm almost done with my degree, and I'm part of the Psy-Chi Honor Society.
Yes.
So.
And I got an AA from community college, and I play guitar.
Baller status. And that brings us around the horn to Brian.
Yeah, well, I'm Brian. I don't have anything to follow that.
It's not that special. You just made me sound fancy.
I got a high school diploma from Brentwood, and that's about it.
And he met Mr. Met once.
And for all of you wondering, because I have the same shit. It's not the Brentwood where OJ's from, though. It's the
boring one.
The opposite.
the whack Brentwood.
The opposite. the MS-13 on the national news, Brentwood.
No, Brentwood
Make
always
us proud. So yeah, today we want to talk about brand loyalty. I think I'm going to subtitle this "Why Nintendo is Better Than Everybody" or something similar.
I wonder who you're brand loyal to.
Yeah, I'm not a fanboy at all. I'm very level-headed, and I don't have any biases towards anybody. But yeah, so
I feel lying.
Are you calling me a liar? No, but so now I gotta send you hate mail.
You're lying.
now I gotta get all my followers to tweet at you. That'll do it. And as always, this is brought to you by. Does anybody want to guess? Do I have to say it? I'm gonna say it. Fuck GameStop. So, having said that,
I was gonna say a Nietzsche. I'm like, did they bring that back?
By Sasson Goya. So, having said all of that, brand loyalty. Everybody has. One of my favorite things to do is when there's a new console out or a new pair of consoles, is I go to message boards or I go to articles. I don't even read the article. I just skip down to the comments. It like rejuvenates me because people are like so, I don't know, attached. Why is that? That's a deep question.
I guess it could come sort of like, like people with their sports teams. You just get attached to it. And I don't really agree with it that much, but it's just fanboyism. That's really what it comes down to.
People do it without even knowing they're doing it. It's built into your DNA as a human being to be part of a tribe. Mm-hmm. We're social creatures, so that's how we rose to the point we are at in nature above other species, is by being tribal. And so to do that, you have to have a strong sense of loyalty.
I thought it was having a bigger stick than the other thing, or being able to avoid,
that's part of it.
avoid the tiger in the middle of the night, and then being able to stab it with a sharpened stick before it could
Definitely
realize you're there.
It takes your tribe to do that, and there's got to be trust and loyalty there to do that.
It's funny for me because it was like something I was born into. I had an older brother, so I was just loyal to whatever he got first. If he was into it, then I was into it, and whatever he said was the best, I was just like, yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, that's the tribe mentality.
Yeah, so I don't know. I would love to know a first generation person, how they got into what they got into and how they became loyal. I was just a product of, I thought my older brother was cool, so that was it.
My loyalty to I'm a firstborn, right? So my loyalty to the shit I like just comes from being lazy. A buddy of mine, so it's well established. I love, I've had every PlayStation console. I've had every Nintendo console, right? So a buddy of mine sent me an Xbox 360 that he just had lying around. And I really tried. I tried to play it. I really did. I gave it a shot. For a couple of months, I was playing Castle Crashers and I think Gears of War 3 or something. Game. One of the Gears of Wars. I'm not sure which one.
Gears of War.
But
Good
it
game.
wasn't the same. Like when I turned on the console, I was like, I don't like this controller. Not that it sucks. I'm just not used to it. I'm not. I don't know this menu. I have to get used to this. No, I'm not with it. It's this familiarity that I have with seeing the P come up or seeing like the Nintendo logo, whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm the guy without the iPhone, and I hate iPhones. Not because I think they're worse. It's just I just know how to use Samsung. That's what I've had, and anything else bothers me.
That's very true because I'm now on my third iPhone, and I've wanted to switch away from it, but it's like you're so used to it. Like at this point, and this goes back to consoles also. If you're on your third generation of PlayStation console, you're like, I don't want to switch to something brand new and learn everything all over, learn the control, learn this. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of it at this point, that we're so deep into the consoles of having, multiple generations.
But how was the first choice made? Like the first go around, like when PlayStation and Xbox, the original ones came out, like how was that choice made?
It just depends on how you're stimulated. And that's, if you have nothing else to compare it to and you're the first person to discover something and then pass it on, you don't have anyone ahead of you telling you why something's the best. So it really just depends on what stimulates you, either visually, tactilely, what's comfortable to you. And then you come up with your own pros and cons. And then when you're generally the oldest being around others, they tend to just put that trust in you as a wiser person and they follow suit.
Makes sense.
Well, I think some of it comes down to pricing for one. That could be a deciding point. If one is $100, $150 more, that could be a deciding point. And a lot of features like, for example, when PlayStation 1 was up against Nintendo 64. And I forget which one came out first, but that could also be the first one to market, could be a deciding factor. And also PlayStation was cheaper. It was cheaper. The games were a lot cheaper.
Nintendo was also established.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's why I was curious about.
And Nintendo was established, yes. But I think
Nintendo
PlayStation
had 2 consoles out already.
PlayStation innovated themselves. It was new. The movement was really smooth and it flipped by.
And it was a disc-based system. I think that was the first fully disc-based system. Mm-hmm. So it had, you had the better graphics of everything, and and I'm pretty sure it was cheaper. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was cheaper, and the games were definitely
I did
cheaper.
have a Sega CD.
I feel
That was
like
Sega CD.
An add-on. That was an add-on. Yeah, that was an add-on though.
Yeah, that was an add-on. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Sega partnered.
It was an add-on,
with,
yes, but it was also
yes,
like
Sega partnered with Panasonic and Sony at the same time to try and create an all-disc-based console, and they were free to work on their own, and that was how PlayStation even came into existence because they had worked on it and said, all right, "Fuck it, no, we got it, we're doing it."
Don't you guys think though that it's really more about the experience? That even if it is an economic reason, you're going to kind of find a way to really get what you want, the thing that's going to enhance your experience, that you're going to do what you got to do to put that money aside or whatever.
I think it depends on your situation and your age. You know, if you're 15 years old or 14 years old, that extra $100 could be, you know, a make or break. You know, if you're an older person with a job and everything, then yeah, it's easier to save the extra money and go for it.
I feel like
if you're 5 years old and you get a Nintendo Entertainment System as your first console from your
parents, exactly.
Right.
When I was a kid, though, I just worked harder. I had a goal, and if I wanted something, I just didn't stop, you know, doing more chores or whatever it was to get the money that I wanted to get the thing that I wanted. Because for me, it was about the experience. So I would just delay it a little bit to get the best thing. And I was just wondering if you guys felt like maybe gaming. I feel like gaming is such an experience, you know, because you're not on Earth anymore. You're a character. You're in a place. You're in your own little universe now. So for me, it is so much of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So well, that's kind of kind of the thing I've tried to explain to my wife is that like she's not a gamer, but I am, and I've tried to explain like going and experiencing a storyline in a game is like being part of it. And when I try to explain it as like, because she's a very big reader, she loves books and going on these journeys in a book. But like I told her that like think of it as like instead of like reading the story, like you're choosing the actions of the character in the story. You know, granted, like you're kind of like depending on the game and choices and options and stuff, you're kind of railroaded into like a particular, you know, storyline or whatever. It's like, you know, some options are already chosen for you, but like that's kind of it. And that's when she started kind of understanding gaming for me and like why I liked it, because I'm as much as I can be into like multiplayer and like, you know, deathmatch kind of games or whatever. Like if it's got a good storyline to it, I can really get into.
That's what I play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's a question, and this is probably going to be more, I don't know, I guess it'll end up being more psychology than anything, but with brand loyalty, because I was thinking about it, and how often when, like, let's say you actively make a choice and you say, I've researched both these consoles or I researched both Android and iPhone when they first came out. When you buy it, how often does somebody buy something, even if they don't like it? How often do you say, damn, I made the wrong choice, I'm an idiot, and switch? Or how often do you just say, well, I made this choice, and whether you realize it or not, you're like, this is my thing, I don't want to look like a fool, so now I'm going to defend this thing till I die?
I think it's a lot of that. I think it's a lot of somebody picked a thing, and I think that goes into, because a lot of the conversations that you guys have had have been very level-headed. I picked this because it's comfortable. I picked this because it caters to me. A lot of the arguments you see where people defend their console are, I picked this because it's better than your shit. And I think that goes to the whole idea of, well, I don't really want to say that, you know, I made the wrong choice, I picked the wrong thing or whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
That's a problem just with a lot of people generally in life, you know. Admitting that you made a mistake.
That never happens, because I can't tell you how many people I knew who told me this following sentence. Dude, the Zune really is better than an iPod.
That was the obligatory laugh they gave you, Ryan.
Yeah.
I think they were just delayed on laughing because they had to remember what a Zune was.
Well, I never
had
happened, either of them.
That happened a lot with...
Sorry, go ahead.
Wow.
Sorry. Go ahead.
All right, that happened a lot with, like, when the original iPhone came out. You know, you had every one of these phones now were the next iPhone killer, the next iPhone. and they really weren't until much later on. Nothing was able to touch the iPhone for the first couple of generations at least.
Yeah.
And that's hey, this is way better than the iPhone, and it wasn't really.
Yeah, I mean, to think about how many people held out on getting iPhones because they were still brand loyal. They're like, dude, BlackBerry's still the best. They're still the future.
Yeah.
Yo, my Trio was the shit.
The Palm Trio.
Oh, that was my jam.
Oh, I had a Palm Pre. That was an iPhone killer too.
Boy, all these iPhone killers died. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. I had a Palm Pre, a Samsung Instinct. None of them killed them.
But
yeah, I'm going to send you a message on my Windows phone later, though.
But to translate that, because the console version of that is the console wars. Like, who won this generation? Like, you had PS3, Xbox, and Wii. Who sold the... And really, I always wonder, like, does there have to be a winner? Like...
Well, they all won, really. Unless the console died, that was it. They all won, because they all sold a ton of them.
Yeah. I mean, if you have, like, if, for example, when the Wii U came out, everybody was like, oh, Nintendo's dead. If Nintendo really went out of business and now you only had two consoles, let's go to the extreme. Let's say there was only Xbox. Do you really want, like,
one choice?
Yeah,
that's communism.
That's easily a $900 console waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Like, yo, you want to play video games at all, bitch?
Yep, this is your one and only option.
GameStop would be all over that shit. They'd be like, "Oh, you want the GameStop edition of the
I feel
only
like
console?"
They're gonna send you a cease and desist soon.
Yeah, GameStop.
Hey, if they do that, I'll.
You made it big time, buddy.
Yeah.
I'll list all of my grievances, but that's
If they
another
send you
show
a cease and
altogether.
desist, you got to tell them, I'm willing to settle, and the most I could offer you is $1.39. Give them a taste of their own damn medicine.
Right? $1.39, and then whatever it was, and I'll sell it for $50.
By the way, if you want the reference point, current to date, PlayStation 4 has sold 89 million consoles. Xbox One has sold 40 million, and the Switch has sold 21 million.
So
The
who
Switch
beat him
has
out?
only been out
PlayStation?
for 2
PlayStation
years now,
killed
though.
them, but that's because of the Asian market. If you look at U.S. sales, Xbox
Yeah, you
has
talk about
outsold.
brand loyalty. Get some Asians in the mix.
Yeah. I just saw that for all the
Seriously.
consoles. I saw PlayStation 2 was the highest ever. 120 million, something like that. PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I think PlayStation 2 was the most sold
all-time
console
highest.
of all time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have my PlayStation 2 in a closet somewhere because I can't see giving it up for $11 at GameStop.
Oh, I don't get rid of any of my consoles.
Yeah,
I have
still my GameCube still hooked up.
Yeah. I have a
GameCube.
backwards compatible PS3 that plays PS2, PS1 games, so I kept that.
I have a modded Xbox that I can't do anything with, so I definitely kept that.
Yeah, no one's taking
She
that.
modded her Xbox 360 forever ago, so hey, you could play burn games, but you could only play burn games.
Well, I was broke, it was a single mom, so I had to find a way to get my games for $1-ish.
Nice.
There's that Asian market again.
Yeah. That's that 14% of me.
So, I think, are we all agreed that there really isn't objectively a best console? It's just whatever you're comfortable with. I think that's the conclusion.
Well,
Yeah, I bought an Xbox 360 solely because I had an Xbox and I was comfortable with it. But when 360 and PS3 came out, and I think this was a very important thing, HD, DVD, and Blu-ray were battling it out, and you could get a PS3 cheaper than you could buy a Blu-ray DVD player. And I think I know a lot of people who bought it just because of that.
That was the
Or
biggest selling point.
Or
Yeah.
you're like me and you have games that have to keep telling its story, and you've already got all this racked up on your, profile, and you want to play the next game, so you have to buy
Mass
it.
Effect, yeah, Mass
Yes, which is
Effect
my favorite game of all time. Oh my god.
1 and 2, and then then you do a console upgrade, and hey, Mass Effect 3 is you could transfer
That's my
your
favorite
data.
game ever.
What did you think about Andromeda?
I never played it because I'm scared.
I always it's rare that I buy a brand new game that comes out, and then I was gonna give Andromeda a couple months before I picked it up, and then just like the reviews that came out, and then
bad.
being able to watch like a YouTube video of like screen recordings, and it's like, oh look, the jaw isn't connected anymore, and it's like dragging on the ground, or like eyeballs are like half in their socket because of bad coding and stuff, and I'm like, nah, that's got to get patched before I get into that. I won't be able to fucking play that.
How did your Mass Effect end?
My Mass Effect?
Whoever.
Because I played it multiple times, making different choices, and then like
your first run through, your first gut reaction.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first run through for everything, in Mass Effect 2, I lost the robot guy. He died. So I didn't have him. Yeah, the Geth.
God, I loved him. Legion.
Yeah, Legion. I didn't have him for Mass Effect 3, and then Mass Effect 3 when I got to the end, I think I chose to pick the part where you join up, or like you take
control of the Reapers.
Yeah, you take control of them.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, it seemed like, it was like if you can't beat evil, join it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can change the agenda.
Speaking of the brand loyalty and bringing up Andromeda, and I think I talked to Jeff about this for a little bit one time, but are you brand loyal to a franchise, or how about the maker of a game, right? Like, were you still brand loyal to Halo when 343 was going to make it and Bungie was out? Like, are you... How deep does brand loyalty go? Is it to a franchise, or is it if different developers take over?
I've got a few franchises I'm super loyal to. I mean, Zelda right off the rip.
Zelda,
if they made, I played Link's Crossbow Training just because. It's just a thing. But if they announce Grand Theft Auto 6 tomorrow, and it was $150. Y'all gonna hate me for this, but I would pre-order that bitch right away.
Okay, but the question is, what if it wasn't Rockstar? What if they say, okay, well, EA's making it? It's still Grand Theft Auto, but now
EA bought Rockstar, closed Rockstar like they usually do, where they close everything they buy. They're like, hey, you get one last hurrah, make one last game, and then we're closing your doors.
Yeah, but so that's the question.
EA makes
the
Grand Theft Auto
or the
6
developers?
I think it depends. I think it depends on the game. There are certain games, like Arkham. I played Arkham Origins.
Yeah,
and that wasn't Rocksteady, right?
No, it was a different.
It was the franchise. I've played every Spider-Man game that has ever come out, and those have been a slew of developers. But if somebody other than Nintendo made Zelda.
Well, we've had that before.
That is a developer loyalty, because know that what they think and feel and all of their heart and soul went into this game, it's not going to be the same. That's how I feel. I'm more along those lines.
Yeah, because new developers, new people take over, and they don't care about the history of it. But and
it's like what happened with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and somebody mentioned, but Zelda. I think that there was 3 games on the CDI. Was it that were not
CDI, and like you can pull up video. Like I was talking with my wife about it, because I'm a giant Zelda fan and whatnot, and I mentioned like why Nintendo is very controlling of a lot of their properties, and I mentioned this, and she's like, I have no idea what that is. And I pulled up a clip of YouTube of just the like video pieces, not even actual gameplay. Like,
well,
just the
excuse me.
They're so good.
That was the cartoon, but
was that a soundbite?
It might as well have been. Might as well have been.
That was the cartoon, which was great.
But also, this is why I also like have like great respect for Nintendo, because there's one of their major franchises which they're having developed by another production company, but they were very like, hey, we're wanting X, Y, and Z to happen, and it wasn't going very well, and they gave them the axe, and they're like, look, thank you, here's your check for what you did do, but we're going to go over here now, and we're going to have it developed over here, and that's their Metroid series for Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
And this is why I also have a mad respect for Nintendo, is because they put out a video, and they're like, look, we apologize. This is what happened. It wasn't the quality that we here at Nintendo believe is our standard. We have to start everything over, and it's going to be like a year and change delay, and we know everyone's really upset for the Metroid series because we haven't put out like a Metroid Prime game in a long time. But we apologize, but we'd like the game to be better and be the way it's supposed to be and have an enjoyable experience, as opposed to like getting a game out and just selling you something that's not where we want it to be. And I was like, thank Jesus that somebody understands, like, that's how you need to make a game. Because when you crank out a Call of Duty every year, or a whatever every year, or like 3 Assassin's Creeds in a year, like, you can't keep the same level of quality and immersion and storytelling or whatever up for that kind of length of time.
No, I felt like that with, actually, now that you mentioned Assassin's Creed on Brotherhood. I told Ryan yesterday, I was like, I would give this game a 50, even though I love the story so much. And it's because the platform, I don't know, dude, the gameplay, like, it's so much jumping and grabbing that was so glitchy that it made it infuriating to play. But the story was so good, I pushed through it. But I would have, like, hacked its score down to half because of just that experience. I don't know if they rushed it or what they were doing, just trying to get another game out there, but the experience was frustrating just to get on to the next one.
Overall, my experience with Assassin's Creed has been the first year that the game is out. A lot of them are pretty unplayable. They're pretty bad. And
this
then
was not the first one. This was, let's see, the first one is Altair. Second one, Ezio. Yeah. And then the one after that is Brotherhood. That's the one I'm talking about. And then it's Revelation after that. And then it's Assassin's Creed 3 after that.
Assassin's Creed 3 is a good example because I got Assassin's Creed 3 on the Wii U, and I also got Assassin's Creed Black Flag on the Wii U. And those ports were borderline unplayable. Like, I finished them by the grace of God. I don't even know how. I feel like it was like the software just decided, okay, you've had enough of this torture. Let's just let you get to the ending.
Is that a console problem? Because, I mean, it wasn't probably to that
It's usually a developer problem, because what happens is they'll make a version of a game directly. They'll develop it specifically for the PlayStation or specifically for the Xbox, and then they'll say, well, we also want it on this console, and instead of starting from the ground up again, they just
retrofit it.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
That makes sense.
And sometimes they'll get another company to do it, and the other company's like, okay, well, we'll just kind of fit it this way, and
and then
if it works, it works.
That's a serious, being a primarily a PC person, like, PC, and then like Nintendo, like, when they have a game that's like primarily made for a console and it's made for PlayStation or made for Xbox, and then they port it to PC, they get so lazy just with their like keyboard to game controller connections and stuff, that like almost you have to go out and buy a game controller for it, because none of the buttons line up. They don't work the same way. They don't have the same responsiveness as if you were using a game controller. And that's just porting laziness. It's a developer that, like, okay, we'll get someone that like has, the general idea of what they're doing to remap what buttons go to which key, and then just send it out. And that's a lot of times they don't fit right, or like, hey, yeah, you have to press L, and I'm like, well, all of my fingers are over here on WASD. I have to go over to L to press that.
I had to finish Knights of the Old Republic on my tablet, which was really aggravating because I couldn't, like, a couple freak things happened where I couldn't finish that game, and that game is long as hell. So, like, by the time my babies were old enough to, like, take care of themselves to a measure, I finally was like, okay, I'm going to play this game. Well, I could only really get it on my tablet at the time because I didn't have a PC that would could play it. And holy freaking hell, dude! Trying to play that game on a tablet, you need like octopus arms. It was impossible. You literally needed like more phalanges.
So
one of them was like the speed freaking those speeder races or whatever.
Yeah.
You had to like hold it down in an area of the screen, and then you also had to give it direction in another area of the screen. But if you lifted like your finger, it was so hard. It was so hard to play. I was just surprised I actually found it on a tab, like to play on a tablet. That was amazing in itself.
Yeah, they're gonna get as much money as for that game as they can, because that's one of the only storyline games that Star Wars has done in the last 20 years that people are like, hell yeah, that game was awesome. And like,
it's an amazing story, though.
Yeah.
The highest selling Star Wars game of all time up to date was Lego Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
That is no joke.
I'm sure
those
I'm
Lego
sure it's not.
Those Lego games sold tons, all of them.
What's that?
The Lego games, all the different versions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are. We hear you. Now we can hear you.
All right. I was just saying the Lego games sold incredibly. All different versions. They had Batman. They had I don't remember, but they had
Batman, Marvel, DC. Like
yeah.
Like I think they just had the DC villains one that was like a big one where you actually got to make your villain character and then go play with all the DC villain people like the Joker and whatnot. So I know that was like a big thing.
Yeah.
There you go. I guess that's all right back to brand loyalty. Those Lego games. If it says Lego on it, they'll buy it.
But I mean, also like if you make a good game though, like if you make a good game that's enjoyable and easy to play and controls well, like people will buy it. Like
what's a good game
is like
to you?
make a quality product and people will buy it. Like,
but what do you define as a quality game?
Let's see. Well, I mean, the most recent one that I've purchased that was a quality game was, I mean, I guess there's the Dark Souls remaster that was really good. A great port, actually, you know what? A great quality game that was a great port was the new Doom that actually they put out on Switch. That was impressively good. Like, as far as for being like a portable gaming system that has like, I mean, to be like real with people, like it's got a lower processing power. It's got a slightly worse, like not top end graphics card because they're trying to keep, you know, battery life and playability and stuff down. But like that game looked amazing on the Switch. And
yeah, so that's a specification more so that I was looking for. Like you're talking about, like, okay, so it looks real. Like if you were to talk to people that don't have necessarily the, you know, knowledge, the technical knowledge that, you know, most gamers have, and you would explain to someone like who wants to get into gaming or whatever, what's a good game to play? Like how do you define your parameters? Because you see like certain games from one spectrum to another that will get these cult followings, and they're like total opposite styles. So like what makes a game great? Like
I think
in layman's terms or experience wise.
I think first and foremost, the reason that we game is we want to break away. It's like immersion into something other than reality, right? It's a break from reality, or it's, you know, something to decompress, get our mind off of stuff, go into another world. So anything that breaks that immersion. So for me, if a game has some sort of bug that, like, you know, you're walking along and all of a sudden something freezes, or you bump into an invisible wall or whatever,
you fall through the floor.
Yeah, something like that. It breaks the immersion, and then it also speaks to the quality. Like, were you testing this game? You know, like, what was the control like? How much work did you put into it?
Yeah,
I'm older now, so now if I spent $60 on a game, that's not $60 that was part of my allowance that I saved up. That was $60 that I went to work and I did things, productive things that I wasn't sitting on my couch all day. So I was doing that instead. So now if I spend $60, I want to get 60. There's a reason why
yeah, like this was 2 hours of my life to buy this game. This, blah blah.
There's a reason why right before we hit record on this podcast, I ordered Assassin's Creed Unity, and the only reason it was because it was $5, and that's based on anybody who's played the game, and I've never played it. When I saw that I could get it for $5, I said, okay, well, I'm gonna wait and get it. Same thing happened with Kingdom Hearts 3. I just got Kingdom Hearts 3. I love Kingdom Hearts. When the first Kingdom Hearts came out, It's an RPG made by Square with Disney characters in it.
It's Final Fantasy with Disney characters.
Yeah, that's an oversimplification, and the
I would say so.
The story to it is so convoluted, but the gameplay is fun. And when I saw early clips of Kingdom Hearts 3, even the trailer that Square put out, the dialogue looked like PS2 dialogue. Like one person says something, and then you have that 2 seconds of let me load the next audio clip where there's like an awkward pause and they respond. Mm-hmm. Or the tone with which the voice acting is like out of context to what it's saying.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not paying $60 for that. Are you out of your mind?
Which I think was also an Andromeda issue.
Yes, and it's funny you say that because I was just about to bring it all back down to Mass Effect for me. What makes a great game, and it's all of that. What Jeff said, like the glitching. There was hardly any glitching in any of them, hardly. And
the first one,
at the
I
end,
the first one.
Yeah, the first one had that.
But I mean, like that's also understandable
lot.
because those things where you go down on the planet and you're in the rover and stuff.
Some of those massive game too.
Yeah, but you like I flipped that rover bitch thing fucking many fucking times.
I know, dude. Me too. But I mean, at the end, I
payoff,
cried at the end. Yeah, I cried. Like I felt like I was for real, like a part of this, saving the freaking universe. The story was so good. It was so good, and the gameplay was so fun. So for me, it has to be gameplay and story. I don't like just throw people on a map. I hate Mario Kart, and I hate that stupid shooter game y'all were just talking about. I don't like there's
Call of Duty.
Yeah. I can't stand those games because
now we're gonna get
I
mail.
like Halo. I liked Halo, the campaign of Halo, but I don't like just going in there and shooting. It's just boring to me. Yeah, the gameplay's fun, but there's no emotional attachment for me. Now I loved the Bad Company, what was that game? Russia? Yes, where it was like the Russians or something. That was great. That was great. But I didn't like that other game, Call of Duty. So it's just got to have an emotional appeal for me. Most games for me to actually sit and play through it. Red Dead is amazing. I love Red Dead.
Oh, Red Dead.
What? You don't like it?
I love Red. Are you kidding? I love Red Dead.
Okay, I was about to say, hold on, you're breaking my heart. Oh my god.
So I was actually about to say, God of War last year, Red Dead Redemption 2 last year. Those were two games that had ridiculously great stories.
So good.
Brought you in. Now here's a question though, because you bring up Call of Duty. If you want to talk loyalty to a franchise,
I know.
Where does that come from? Why do people? Why are people loyal to Call of Duty?
To the game itself, I think because I think military games are kind of they touch an area where a lot of people have their loyalty to their country, and it's just I think it's just an outlet to take out the need to express your aggressive tendencies. And aggression is a natural part of the human psyche. It's supposed to be there. It's not unhealthy to be aggressive at times. And so I think Call of Duty was a game that allowed people to get that out in a healthy way. And I see the appeal, and
it was a real world based aggression.
Right.
It's something that you could do if you joined the military, not fighting aliens or doing Hadoukens.
Right. It satisfies a deep seated warrior mentality. It's the warrior side that most men have woven into their DNA. So.
Well, yeah, I could speak to that. I do play Call of Duty, so I could speak to this a little bit. I wouldn't call myself a fanboy, but I've owned pretty much all of them except maybe one or two. But I've also tried other similar games like say Battlefield, and it just like it didn't do it for me. I guess because I'm so used to the Call of Duty, the controls, just the gameplay and everything. Switching to a similar game, you're really getting the same thing out of it, but having to basically relearn everything all over, it makes it tougher and annoying.
Plus, you have so many people who are into it too, so there's a common ground. You can go over to a friend's house, and odds are everybody likes the game, and you want to play it because it's something you can do together.
Yeah, and another thing that's good about games like that is that if you don't have a lot of time, you can sit down, you can pick it up, you could play it for a half hour.
Right.
Whereas a lot of story-based games, like I also love Resident Evil games.
Oh yes,
that's also good
franchise.
But that's not a game that you could sit down and play for a half hour, or that you could put down and come back to it 2 months later because you forget everything that you did. Call of Duty, you could jump into that. I could pop in Call of Duty 4 right now from 10 years ago and play it, and it's perfectly fine.
That's true. I just went back into Spider-Man, the PS4, the new Spider-Man game, and I had that's the second game I ever got a platinum trophy on. It was very short. I did it in like less than a week. But when the DLC came out, I didn't really get back into it. And then this past weekend, I tried to go back in, and it took me like almost an hour to, how do I swing again? Yet if I go away from Overwatch for 6 months, I can come back and just, I remember how to do everything.
I think there's also a level of intensity in learning some stuff for that kind of a thing. Like, Overwatch is very intense, so like it has to be muscle memory. Whereas on the Spider-Man game, like that's more of like a stylistic, like learning how to swing and like, I want to try and swing like he does in the comic or swing like he does in the movie, and like kind of like so you're trying to like press buttons and combinations to get like a look or a feel as opposed to like a fight or flight response of like, oh my god, I don't want to die, just like missiles.
That's a very good point. Yeah, because if I were to pop in Halo 3 or Gears of War 1, and I haven't played either of them in 8 years, I would probably just jump back to it like I never stopped.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah, because the controls are the same, and it's like you said, it's basically muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll take you a few minutes to get used to it and right back into it.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you off. I'm a squirrel sometimes, and I get this idea, and I'm like, eat, gotta talk. But why was the big, huge, why is everyone, or used to be, obsessed with the Grand Theft Auto games? Like, it's so, like, vulgar and, like, just intense sometimes, and I'm like, ooh.
I think those were, like, the first, like, sandbox, open world, like, go off. You don't have to follow the mission. You could just do whatever you want on the side. You can explore a world type games.
There were just some things in there where I was just like, I don't know.
Well,
I don't think I'd feel good about myself.
And so it was the first one that was, because there were other open world games before that, but this was the first one that was like super mainstream. It was in a city environment instead of like most of the open world games prior to this were RPGs.
Barren worlds with like magic and wizards and soldiers and whatnot. And
also the Rockstar brand of comedy, that shit is I mean, they've moved a little bit away from it with the latest games, but it's funny. It's funny, like, to drive around and have a radio station playing where there's a talk show and you want to know what happens next. You're like,
and so you stay driving around.
Like, he ran naked through a fucking whatever, and like it's they have these weird characters, and it's again, it goes back to that immersion. Like, it immerses you in that weird Liberty City or wherever you are.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto, and it's one of those games you could literally play for hours and just get nothing done, like, in terms of the storyline. But there's just so much to do and so much side things, and I think that's why it became such a great franchise, because just because there was so much to it, other than just following the storyline.
You know how many young people got into 80s music because of Vice City? Like, they sold more soundtracks to a video game than anything ever, and it was so popular they came out with Volume 2, Volume 3, and it was all just a flock of seagulls and, and Depeche Mode. But, dude, people got so hardcore into 80s music, when that game came out, just from driving around.
Yeah. Yeah, Vice City had a great soundtrack.
they do pick good music in general, because like when you play even the more, I don't want to say modern Call of Duty, the more modern Grand Theft Autos, but the Grand Theft Autos that take place like in the 90s or 2000s, whatever. If you put on San Andreas and you go and you put on the hip hop station, you're driving around in 1992. Like you're thinking, hey, this is 90. Like you got NWA on, you got like.
Yeah, they nailed it. They completely nailed it. That's the thing.
Has a video game ever introduced you to music or a band or something you've never heard of? Like, I guess just to fill the silence, I didn't ask so I could answer the question, but to fill the silence was like when I first got Borderlands, the intro song. I ended up loving that band, Cage the Elephant. Ain't No Rest for the Wicked. And I'd never heard of them or anything when that came on. I'm like, wow, this is freaking awesome. And the music fits so perfectly to what the world was.
Yeah.
I guess not. I guess just me. All right.
I mean, I've had video games like the Burnout series. Burnout has really good music in it, but it's never really gotten me to say, well, let me buy this band's music. Yeah. I could just say, I like driving with this music in the background.
Oh, all right. Good.
And it's quiet.
I mean, I may or may not have like downloaded like the radio stations so that I could drive around listening to like the ones from Grand Theft Auto 3, like some of the just talk shows, so I could hear the whole thing. I may or may
While
not
you search for a helicopter you can hijack in real life.
So I can hear the whole like conversations between like the fake people. Like on the talk shows and whatnot, just being vulgar and rude, and I'm like, well, this wouldn't really make it in real radio because someone be marching on a radio station, picketing and stuff.
It's such a subtle thing, but like when they did that with Grand Theft Auto, and they decided to, when you get out of the car, the radio still kind of plays in the background, just lower.
Yeah,
that was on point.
So I guess just because I'm thinking about it, to what the main theme was, can we all agree that when it comes to brand loyalty, Nintendo is they are the king. They've been around longer than all of them. They're the only ones whose handheld systems really sell or people care about for the most part. Yeah. They've beat everybody out. I mean, think about when we were kids. Sega doesn't exist anymore. They're all but gone, and Atari, all this other stuff is gone. But Nintendo they always wear the crown.
I think what Nintendo does well is they have a very healthy, they're very cognizant of what their IPs mean to people. So they may have a bad game, like there may be a bad Mario game, or there may be a
Mario.
bad...
Yeah, I know when people are from New York when they say Mario instead of Mario.
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 There may be a bad Zelda game, like not like but their main Zelda games.
I haven't found one yet.
Well, you might have a game that's like I mentioned Link's Crossbow Training. That wasn't a horrible game, but it was just like an add-on to a thing like you could play.
So what's a bad Mario game? But not like the computer ones or educational, like Mario Through Time, and it's like a history lesson, like a real Mario game.
If I had to
they had like Dr. Mario, if you want to consider that. Like that was like a spin-off, like the Link.
Well, I love Dr. Mario, so
I think the point is that when there's a game and a Nintendo game that comes out, you can tell. Like when Wind Waker came out. When Wind Waker came out, people were like, what the fuck? Like, because everybody was going towards more realistic graphics. Wind Waker comes out and it's cel-shaded, it's cartoony.
It was divisive. Yeah.
But you can play, more people play Wind Waker now than any other game that came out when Wind Waker came out.
That's the thing about Nintendo. It's they always do their own thing. Like the Nintendo Wii, they didn't compete with 360 or PS3. They're just like, we're going to be a different thing. Yeah. And that's always what they do, and I think that's a huge reason why they survive.
Yeah. And
yeah,
go ahead, Brian.
They fill a different I don't know if you want to say genre or audience maybe.
Niche.
different niche with their, because they are different. You can't really compare it to PlayStation and Xbox consoles. Going back all the way really to GameCube, really.
Like Nintendo is like Steven Spielberg movies. They just make things that everybody in the family likes, whether you're a young, old, teenager. Like everybody can play them. Everybody likes it. Unlike like your mom could get into playing Mario Party with the family, but she's not going to play Grand Theft Auto.
I have some people that like don't play video games
unless
really,
she
but
likes
like when they come
women.
over, they want to play
True.
Mario Kart. Like they're into Mario Kart. So
Who doesn't love Mario Kart?
And you know what bears out in numbers, because Ryan, when you brought out the sales numbers, and I didn't know what each console. I mean, I don't really look into that because I don't care. But like when you look at when you were saying that PlayStation 4 sold what 89 million,
Yes.
and how much did Xbox One sell?
40.
And if you think of, I mean, that's a stark difference. But when you think about like Kratos, right? That is a Sony exclusive character that they did the hell out of. Like he has not made a misstep. That motherfucker has games that are like insanely good God of War games, right? The Uncharted games, a lot of the first party, like Sony has done really well, I think, recently in taking their first party characters or second party like exclusive characters, and making them like memorable, making them something like, hey, I want to know what happens next with this. I was about to say Tomb Raider, but that's not that was exclusive back in the day. It's not. It's not
we
now.
lost y'all. We lost you, Jeff, for like 45 seconds.
Really?
Last thing. This is what we heard. We heard Kratos. They haven't made a misstep, and then we heard. I was about to say Tomb Raider, but that was back in the day. That's
okay. So, I don't know if it came out in the recording or not, but the
it's your fault. I'm sure recorded whatever you said. We just didn't hear you.
Yeah. So basically, just to recap, that when you look at God of War games, and that's a great example, but like you look at God of War 1, 2, 3, and then last year's God of War, and all the spin-offs and whatever. That's a character you want to know what happens next with Kratos, right? You want to know what happens next with a lot of the characters on the PlayStation exclusively right now, and they've done a really good job of selling you these stories that people just want to get. Did you lose me again or no?
Yeah.
It doesn't hear when we cuts out. Yeah.
As soon as you said, just to recap.
I hope it's recording, though. I wonder how that's going to record. He might have to chop it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. So, but in essence, what I'm saying is the Sony's doing really good with their exclusive characters, similar to what Nintendo's been doing it for years, but it seems to bear out in that. I had somebody ask me the other day, why is it that if Xbox has all of these great features, why do people like PlayStation better? And my immediate answer is because of the games. It's if I would love to get an Xbox One X and say, hey, look, I can do native 4K without checker boxing. What 99% of people that have that and brag about that don't know what the fuck it means. And if you put them side by side, they wouldn't be able to tell you one versus the other. But it's nice to say, oh, look, my shit didn't do the 4K. But when I look at an Xbox One X, I'm like, what game am I missing that I can't play because I don't have an Xbox? And if there was a game, like when they announced Sunset Overdrive, I was like, yo, I want to play that game. But I'm not going to buy a console just for like a throwaway game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with the thing.
Well, hopefully, no one would.
Yeah. With the whole thing with brand loyalty, I'm curious. If you look at the opposite spectrum, like, and I guess you got to go back before, a while back. But have you ever did you ever go into a game store and you bought a game that you knew nothing about just because it looked cool and you end up liking it a lot?
Yeah.
Just because you said game store, I'm going to say not at GameStop.
Well, wherever. What was yours, Luna?
Well, I think
Jump
probably. I think I probably did that for the PlayStation 2, and I think that was the game Oni for PlayStation 2, which was like a Japanese anime kind of like fighting cop game, whatever.
Never even heard of it. And what Jungle Strike? What was Jungle Strike?
Okay, so like,
it's awesome.
Yeah,
I've never heard
I can't believe he knows what it is.
I've never heard of it in my life.
So I got Jungle
There was
Strike.
3 of them.
And Road Rash on the same day, and it was at like a.
What was it for? Sega?
And Jungle Strike was like, I love military games and political stuff, so it was like you have like these missions, and one of them was like you escort the president's limo, and like just a shooter map kind of style.
Helicopter game.
Kind of thing. Yeah. And sorry, didn't realize I left that out.
Yeah, you left a little
the
detail.
most important part out. And that became my obsession with helicopters, which is why Ryan. Remember when I was talking about joining the military, I was like helicopters.
Yeah.
That game got me into, and then that game got me into battle tanks for the 64. But Road Rash was the other game I got the same day that I thought both games are just gonna suck, but I got them really cheap, and Road Rash is like you're just riding a motorcycle on different maps, and you beat the shit out of other riders, so you win the game. And
you just punch them as you're on your motorcycle.
Yeah, I would have dreams of like that African music playing in my dream.
Yeah, Road Rash is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, Jeff, what was yours?
I actually got burned by one that I bought that I didn't know. Well, I knew about where it came from, and that was Bad Boys Miami Takedown.
Was it based off?
I know that game.
Oh my god!
Based on the way he's laughing, I'm totally judging you right now.
Please tell me that was based off the movie Bad Boys.
Oh, it was supposed to be,
but it was just bad shooting, and then like Will Smith,
even worse,
and Martin
voice
Lawrence
acting.
just like doing like
it wasn't their voices.
Lines. It wasn't their lines. Okay,
no.
So it was just terrible. Like
they just
one-liners
took two generic black dudes or people who did generic black voices. Like I shot you in the face. Like oh, it was so bad. That was I think the first game that did not last 24 hours in my house. I bought it and I was like, I don't care if you don't give me nothing for it. I can't have this. This is not a thing I can do.
And GameStop did not give you anything for it.
I think that was EB at the time. Electronics Boutique. Let's go.
Oh, yeah, I used to go to EB Games. There was another one, Rhino Games, I think, and then EB bought Rhino Games.
And Funkoland. Let's go.
And Funkoland. Yeah, that was the original.
Funkoland was the shiznit with the box. They had the original box where you could just pick a game for like $2. And it was just loose cartridges and shit. Oh, that was awesome.
Dude, that's like the Sam Goody of video games. What was a good one though?
A good one would be Just Cause 3. When I played Just Cause 3, I didn't know anything about I didn't know anything about the franchise. I had barely heard of it. I knew it existed, and then I bought the game and I started playing it, and I had a blast. The game has zero plot. I mean, there's a plot there, but it's literally just
you're trying to revolution an island.
Yeah, just go. You're basically a guy who's on a glider. You're bulletproof. You regenerate health. You're whatever. Just we're not gonna explain it. Just go fucking blow shit up. If Michael Bay made a video game,
that is kind of on point for that. Yeah,
the one that I bought it was for GameCube, and I just went to the store. I'm like, this looks cool. It was a shooting game called Time Splitters.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I bring it up, people have either never heard of it or they say I love that game, but it's not a game anyone talks about. It was just like GoldenEye with slow motion. It was awesome.
I hated GoldenEye. Everybody loved it.
That was the original first-person shooter. It was the best. And big head mode and paintball mode.
It didn't age well, but when it was out, I remember like late night sessions where we would do 2-on-2 and put a piece of cardboard in the middle of the TV, and it wasn't even a big screen TV, just so that I'm on this side, but I can't see and sneak peek where you are, and we're just actually.
Oh damn!
Yeah, if not, my proximity mine, and then we're screwed.
Yeah,
like if you so much as arched your neck, that would have been a fight. That would have been like, yo, let's step outside for a minute. You can't be looking at my screen.
Screen peeking.
You know, speaking of cheating, you know what my brother used to do to me when we would play battle tanks? He would go and plant the turrets right where I would respawn, and he'd plant like 20 of them. And as soon as I'd respawn, I'm getting bombarded with like cannons. Freaking cheater. God,
Spawn
that would
camping
piss me off
sucks.
so bad. You know, right? You always respawn in the same place. So he would go put all the turrets like right there. So you had no chance the second you got back.
I
Yeah,
do have a
Spawn camping.
nostalgia
Freaking
though
jackass, man.
for games that are not fair. You know, once you were able to expose it, like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, like if you got good at it,
That's a good game.
like people weren't allowed to use Cable or Magneto. You're like, no, you know you can't use them.
Why? I played that.
Because
What
they
are you
were
talking
cheesy.
about?
Yes,
Oh.
Cable was way too overpowered to just sit there and shoot you all the time. And Magneto, if he got you in the air, he could do an infinite combo and you couldn't get out of.
Yeah, it was terrible. I think on that note, we're going to wrap this one up. Man, we're an hour in. That's insane.
You
But it
thought
was-
that these were not going to go on as long as that they
you
were, huh?
We may actually have to do another part to this because we have a lot of unexplored territory. But
who knew Jungle Strike was going to be such a big hit?
yeah, word.
Don't hate on my jungle strike.
So thank
love
you to all of you that are listening and downloading and all of that. Thank you to all you guys that participated, and we'll catch you guys next time. End of a species.
All right, see ya.
Peace.
Later.